Not live. Oh, there we go. Now we're live. There we go. Talkin Nets, episode 121. Boring times in the off season.
Brooklyn,
we're here.
Brooklyn. Sorry, I just had to get that one off. What's up, y'all? Welcome. We are back. And I got to take a screenshot so we can get some of the Nets world into the chat. But obviously, shout out to the Noti squad. Notifications go off. Jared pulled up. Onur pulled up. Probably butchering your name, bro, but don't take that any type of way. We never met. Maybe we'll meet at the Barclays Center one day, and you can say it's pronounced honor. Onur, Onur, who knows? Appreciate you, though. I always see you supporting and rocking with us. Let's see. Let's get a tweet out to let people know we are live. Okay, we're live.
We're live.
And hopefully we can get the chat rocking and people can ask some questions and talk Nets. And what we're going to do in this episode, I will tell you in literally 2 minutes. Copying this and tweeting this out right now. And that should alert some folks. And then I will retweet from my account. Yep. Tag me and tag Hudson. And we're going to talk about the Nets. You guessed it. All right. So that tweet is out. And I got to go to my account and retweet. But, I mean, the Talkin Nets count, that's got more followers than me. So me retweeting it isn't like it's going to do much. I got a couple little followers. All right.
But look, I mean, without that boost, we still got the notification squad coming in hard. Excited for that.
See what it is. I like to pull in my Yankees fans, Yankees universe, Nets world. You know, I'm trying to create that synergy out here and take these Yankee fans that are like, man, you know, the Yankees are off and I'm looking for something to watch. I might have to watch Keith talk about the Nets with Hudson, or the people that are on the fence, like, I think I like basketball. I think I would be a Nets fan. They're on the Yes Network. Maybe I should get into Talking Nets.
Learn to love it. We got owner out here from Istanbul. My man is out there. It's got to be close to midnight for you. That's exciting. We got the international fan base. That's what I love about basketball is they really got fans from all over. I think that's something different. I mean, Keith does a lot of baseball content.
Nah,
but I mean, the NBA is a world game.
Global game. Yeah. And you will never hear an argument from me on that. I love baseball, but I'm an American. And I'm also an African American where baseball wasn't hot in the African American community for a little while. That's why you saw the representation go down from the 70s when we had superstars in MLB that were black to now there's like 7% African Americans in baseball, which
we got the Hudson Flynn catfish accounts back in the chat. Love to see it right off the bat. We're back.
How are you in the chat and on the pod?
That's how you know I'm back. That's how you know Talkin Nets is live, because we got the bot accounts, the catfish accounts in the chat.
All right, well, we're about to count in and record the pod and actually do this thing now. Appreciate y'all for pulling up. You get to watch us record the show. The chat can ask some questions maybe at the end. This is going to be a rapid fire episode. So without further ado, counting us in for the intro. 1, 2, and 3. Talkin Nets episode 121. Man, we've got a lot of episodes now. Schedule is out and we wait. Or now we wait. We've been waiting for the next season to start. Today we're going to talk about Del Curry's wife hooking up with a former tight end from the Patriots. We're going to talk about J.R. Smith going to NC A&T to play golf, and we're going to talk about how LeBron wants to start Hard Knocks for the Lakers. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to talk about any of that. This is Talkin Nets. We're going to strictly talk about the Nets. It's a dead zone right now, but we still have news, and we're going to go through everything that came up in the last week. Rapid fire. You already know. Let's get it. Brooklyn, we go hard. We go hard. Brooklyn, we go hard. We go hard. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 121. Hudson Flynn has over 100 episodes under his belt by now. That's crazy. That's something you could put on your resume. Like, I have over 100 podcast episodes with Keith McPherson, Talkin Nets, John Boy Media. That's impressive for a 19-year-old. Anyway, we're back to Talk Nets. No guests this week, but I am going to have some guests real soon because your boy is going on WFAN. I got some messages from some different people and places and things I'm going to keep putting on for the Nets world tonight. Well, some people listening to the pod won't hear this till tomorrow, but I am on WFAN tonight from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., and there's a 0% chance that I will not talk Nets. There's a 0% chance that I will not mention Nets Twitter, the Nets world, and Talkin Nets. So tune in for that. But right now, Mr. Hudson Flynn, can you say hello to the people?
Man, how we doing, everybody? It's exciting to be back. I do love that, even though not really too much Nets news, kind of a lull in the off season, but we're still here. We're still coming to you live. And man, if you can hear, I'm a little stuffy. I'm back in the Bronx. These Bronx allergies are getting to me. I need to get some sleep tonight, but I won't be. Keith McPherson keeping me up at night, keeping all of you up at night. Got to make sure everybody's listening to him. Got to make sure everybody goes back. I think Odyssey or something like that. There's an app where you can even listen to it. Like if you go back, I might have to do that, but no, it's huge. Talkin Nets, Keith McPherson, everybody out here making major moves, and Keith going live on WFAN. That's really Nets fan number 2 going live on WFAN. So that's 100% more representation for all of us here in the Nets world. So you love to see it. I'm happy about it. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a huge opportunity. I'm excited for it tonight. Honestly, I was up till 2 o'clock last night because we did Pinstripe Strong till like 1:30. And then I think I watched Hard Knocks and just wanted to stay up. So like tonight, it wouldn't be so much of a shock to my system, my biorhythms, whatever. But then today I tried to nap from like 2 to 4 and I couldn't nap. So I'm like, I got to drink some coffee right before I go on air. So whatever. Either way, if you're in the chat live and you're listening, tune in for that. Shout out to Evan Roberts. He is Nets fan number 1. We had him on an episode back in March. I said that he was the voice of Nets fans on the New York sports airwaves, and he gave me a huge cosign yesterday. Him and Carton were going back and forth about, whose idea it was to bring me on, and Carton's line was, he's a fan. He's a Yankee fan, but guess what basketball team he roots for? And Carton is a Knicks fan, so he didn't care. And Evan says he's a Nets fan, like proud, like there's going to be more Nets energy on the air. And we need to get more Nets energy on this podcast. Enough about me and what I'm doing. Your Brooklyn Nets will open training camp in San Diego, September 28th. We're counting down. I think it's something like 34 days, 33 days until we open training camp. So this is the dead zone. This is the waiting period, right? We're spotting a lot of guys working out. We're literally scouring through Twitter for any news updates, Google alerts about the Brooklyn Nets, and any type of last-minute free agency moves or trades that might impact us we're looking for. But this is the dead zone until we get into training camp. So here's what we'll do on this episode today. We'll start off with the big 3. What have we seen from KD, Kyrie, Harden? And then we'll just go through the news that has come up since we last recorded last Wednesday with Christian Winfield. If you did not hear that episode, pause this episode right now. Go back to episode 120 and listen to our guy, Christian Winfield, join us on Talkin Nets. It was a great episode. But let's get right into it. KD, K Dizzle. Number 7 for your Brooklyn Nets, the best basketball player in the world, has partnered with Weed Maps. Do you kids know what Weed Maps is? Hudson, have you ever heard of Weed Maps?
I actually have not, but if KD's got the giving it the cosign, then I don't know if you can get much bigger of a cosign.
I mean, KD says, I think it's time, or I think it's far past the time to address the stigmas around cannabis that still exist in sports as well as globally. Durant also said this partnership is going to help us continue to normalize those conversations as well as create content, events, and a lot more through our Boardroom Media Network. This is just the beginning for us. Now, Weed Maps is an app. It's been out for years. You can't really use it in Jersey unless you're looking for medical marijuana. I think the same goes for New York. But if you're somewhere like California, Chicago, or Denver, like I was at the All-Star game in Denver, Colorado, and I was looking for a spot to pick up some extracurricular goodies. And I just hit the Weed Maps app, and I found a place called Lil Buddy, pulled up. They had everything I needed in there. Excuse me. It was cool. My smoker's cough kicked in right as I said that. Weed Maps is a business. It's an app. And to see the Boardroom and 35 Ventures pull them in and KD to stand with them, and basically in a time where, KD just came from the Olympics. We saw what happened with Sha'Carri Richardson. We talked about what happened with Sha'Carri Richardson on this podcast. I just understand that the movement in 2021 and beyond is to just like chill on the marijuana as far as like labeling it as a drug, or labeling it as a drug for like losers or people that chill in their basement and don't have jobs and don't do anything but get high every day. That was something of the past, and we are moving on to the future. Shout out to KD for leading the way with that. So any other thoughts about Weed Maps? I mean, if you've never seen Weed Maps, then you probably don't have any more thoughts about it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have too many takes, but I think Kevin Durant is like close to like $1 billion in investments in these past 2 years. Like his stuff is really getting him big returns. So like he's making money moves. And, if you're looking at, all-time players, how much money they made throughout their careers, I believe he's 5th on the list in terms of, salary through the NBA. But outside the NBA, there's really not that many people who, have businesses or making moves the same way Kevin Durant is. So you love to see it.
You do love to see it. And like I said, it's moving things into the future. And KD's got a hand in a lot of business things. Like we saw him obviously go to Philly and support his soccer team. And 35 Ventures is killing it. I actually want to participate. They have like some type of social media stunt going on where if you are in the city and you take a picture with this poster, you can get a free Boardroom hoodie. I might try and do that tonight when I go in. But next, in the big 3, let's talk about Kyrie. Kyrie was seen in the new Kyrie 8s. I guess he figured out some stuff with Nike. He was on court. I guess, had a photographer with him. Had the new shoes on. He was getting some shots up, getting some work in. I'm not sure where he was. It looks like the court says Panthers, but good to see Kyrie is healthy. He's at the Samson Center. Kyrie's healthy. That ankle seems fine, and he's got some new kicks on the way. So that's covering 1 and 2 of the big 3. Hudson, what are you thinking about Kyrie's shoe deal with Nike and his ankle and, him posting or pictures? I don't know if he posted them, but pictures popping up on the internet of him back on the floor working out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you love to see it from a Nets perspective. You love to see that, Kyrie's back in the court ready to go. It's pretty easy to point to him as one of the major reasons why the Nets did not make it past the second round of the playoffs last year. But other than that, it's good to see that he's wearing his shoes. It's good to see that maybe his problems with Nike might be on the wayside. You don't want to ever see anything that's going to cause destabilizing forces for one of your star players, and that could absolutely be something that would. So for him to have, be back on the court and, to be spending time in his new shoes, photographed in them, it's all good. It's all good. I love to see it, and I just love that, with social media, we're really able to get, these windows into these people. And it's pretty exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Sherm City in the chat says it's not in Philly, it's in Chester, PA. I don't think I said it was in Philly. The Samson Center, never heard of it. If that's in Chester, PA, I guess Kyrie was in Pennsylvania. Moving on to the third piece of the big three, James Harden, the bearded one. James Harden came out with a quote where he said, at full strength, nobody can beat us. And I think
obviously,
obvious take. I think that was his response to the playoff loss. We heard about how hard it was for him to play on that hamstring. I was at those games. I watched him warm up. What was it, before game 5? I watched him warm up and just gut his way through it. And you could tell, he was trying to be the guy. He was trying to be there for the team. But what do you think about Harden standing on this, saying, not on some jinx stuff. There's no jinxing it. Like, we're the favorites. We're the most talented team. And if we were healthy, we would have got it done this year. Harden kind of put his mouth out there to say, hey, at full strength, nobody can beat us. And I like that.
Yeah, step up for your team. Visualize it. Put that energy out in the air. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The era of, the humble superstar is dead and gone. And James Harden is right. There is nobody that at full strength can beat the Brooklyn Nets. We saw the title odds come out. Nets are minus 260 to win the title. It's a Nets world. And right now we're living in it. So if James Harden's going out and saying that, I'm just excited because we haven't seen really a full season of any of our stars, but James Harden did not join the Nets, obviously, until midway through the season last year. It feels like he might be coming out for some blood because I know he didn't like the way that his season ended. Obviously, Keith talked about seeing him warm up for game 5. He didn't look 100% because he wasn't 100%. He gutted it out. He did what he could. But I feel like Harden's going to come out for some blood this season, and I think this is just one step in, a little media campaign showing us what's coming, and that's really, really, really exciting to me as a Nets fan because I feel like with those three players on the court at full health, it's going to be like an all-star game every night.
Yeah, it sucks. The universe was not ready for a healthy big three. James Harden went on to say, the biggest thing is us being healthy, which we will be. He said, honestly, we're just excited to play a whole season together. That's the exciting part. And for us fans, the exciting part is that these guys have this offseason together. They have training camp coming up, and they have an 82-game season versus a 72-game season, back to normal. And no one can say anything about, it being a cheap season or guys being hurt or COVID. We're back to 82. We expect to be healthy. We've got a lot of weapons. We've got a lot of guys that can contribute. It won't all be on the big three. So let's move on from talking about the big three and talk about the top 5, the big 5. So the Nets have the top 5 catch and shoot players in the NBA. I don't know if you guys saw that. StatMuse put that out. Basically listing Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Kyrie Irving, and Patty Mills as the top catch and shoot 3-point percentage guys from last season. So what say you that, Hudson Flynn? That sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty decent.
It sounds pretty good. And it's back on the media campaign of reminding people who Joe Harris is. That's important because even on Nets, I'm sure there's going to be people in this podcast chat that are going to say negative things about Joe Harris now that we're talking about him. I think it's just huge to remind people who he is. And it just shows how brutal and versatile the Nets offense is going to be. And it's just going to be insane. It's really going to be on another level. I'm just so excited to see the combination of the type of players that just draw so much attention. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, they draw help. They draw secondary, tertiary defenders. And so we're having these players standing in the corner alone on these catch and shoot threes, nobody around them. Of course, they're hitting them. But to add Patty Mills to that, who was not on this Nets team last year, obviously, is huge because, I think he came in at 42%. And next season, he might come in at 45, 46, 47% because he didn't have that experience of being able to have these players getting so drawn away from him that when he does take those catch and shoot shots, there's just nobody in his area code. So, look for those numbers to only get better. Another season under the Steve Nash system, season of full health. There's no one that's going to be able to stop the Nets when healthy. And I think, these statistics are really a microcosm of why, because if you do stop the big three, which you can't, but if you manage to, we still have those other guys who are ready to take those shots. And, once that's the way, you have your team set up, there's no stopping it.
We got shooters. Shoot the lights out. I can't wait to be in the Barclays Center watching the Nets just score 125 points. I see some people in the chat talking about our boy Clax. That's actually the next topic. James Harden and Claxton putting in work. I don't know if you guys saw that clip. I bet you did, Nets fans, of Harden and Claxton on court together. It was on Instagram. Everybody posted it. That's one thing about, Talkin Nets. I don't ever want us to be the account that just reposts the same video that everybody posts. We're kind of in a dead zone right now as we're tying some things up and planning some things for the season. So you won't see us repost that video, but I watched it a few times. It was cool to see Harden, working on passing to Claxton, shooting the three. I think in the video, Claxton shoots the three. He hits a floater, and, these guys are working, and they're working together. And we saw what Claxton and Harden did with not a lot of time last year, with just figuring it out on the fly in the season. They should be stronger this year. And I really think Claxton is going to be that dude. And he's kind of talking that talk too. He was asking for some respect on his name from NBA 2K. And I think that's just a young man that's now going into his third year in the league. He's more mature. He took his lumps last year. He got some experience last year. How are you feeling about our guy, Nick Claxton, 3-3, Claxton?
I'm feeling phenomenal. I'm feeling great. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but he's looking bulkier, right? I think the Nets got him eating those Beyond Burgers, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he's looking bigger. And that's what's really gonna, cause that next step in his game. We saw that with Jarrett Allen as he developed his shoulders, as he got stronger in the low post. That's what allowed him to expand into being now a $100 million basketball player in the NBA. So it's really going to be exciting for him because it looks like with that new body size, he's going to be able to develop a different part of his game that I think has always been a little bit lacking in terms of strength in the low post, rebounding, and combining that with his footwork, his ability to defend, his ability to run the floor, and a continued rapport with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. The sky's the limit for this kid. In terms of players that you might think might be, on the list for, first team, second team all defense. If Clax does play consistent minutes, I think the rest of the NBA needs to look out because that man does not back down on defense. He is a phenomenal secondary piece on offense, and I think his time is coming this year, just the same way it did for Jarrett Allen.
Yeah, he wants to smoke. And speaking of Jarrett Allen came out this week. I'm not sure. Let me see where he said this, but he said something along the lines of, "I'm not going to lie to you." He said he felt like he could have helped the Brooklyn Nets beat the Bucks in the playoffs, and that opens up a whole different conversation and like a Pandora's box. But he's like, "I'm not saying I would have been the number one piece, but I feel like I could have had a hand in helping the Nets get to the finals." It hurts, man. It hurts. It hurts me because I love.
He's not wrong, too.
He's not wrong. I mean, but when you say that, if you say that, right? If things went differently and we never made the trade for Harden and we had Jarrett Allen and Karras, like that's why I said it opens up a box of worms. Like there's no way to tell where we would have been seated. There's no way to tell, who our opponent would have been. We might not have met the Bucks in the second round if we don't make that trade. Harden came in and immediately helped us win games. And the way I look at it is like I looked at it many a podcast ago. If you have the opportunity to get James Harden, you get James Harden. And now that we got James Harden, we have the opportunity to re-sign James Harden. And when he signs his extension, he can be here for years. Love Jarrett Allen. I love that he got paid. And I love that he still got Brooklyn in his heart. Brooklyn drafted him. He was in the community. He had a lot of fans, the Fro. We all loved him, but that's the price you got to pay when you want NBA superstars. And we came up short because our NBA superstars were hurt in Harden and Kyrie. But I hear you, Big J. We definitely missed you. There were definitely times where I was like, damn, I wish we had Jarrett Allen in the paint.
I wish we had him on the team in general. I love him. He was always one of my favorite players playing for the Nets. He always had such a great energy. He was always so much fun to watch, always gave maximum effort, and he earned his money, right? But you can't have, a fourth option on your team be that good and be that expensive. And that's the price you got to pay for superstars. And at the end of the day, had we had James Harden on that team, or Jarrett Allen on that team, we probably would have moved on. That's a $100 million NBA player. But that's not what the team was built for. You can't build a team with $100 million of extra cap space spent on one player. Obviously, you wouldn't have had that at the time, but you couldn't have traded for James Harden, yada, yada, yada. And, expect these things to happen. Expect him to need to have to come out and be in that situation. So while I agree with him, it's just not the way this Nets team was built. It's not the way this team was ever going to be built. We were going to always live and die by our big three. They were going to take us however far, their hamstrings and their ankles allowed. And that's what we're going to see this year, and that's what we saw last year. So I miss you, Jared Allen. Maybe someday there's a future home for you in Brooklyn, should things change. But it's just not the way this team's built anymore. That's the old regime. We're in the new regime.
We are in the new regime. And, with Jared Allen, he said that on Sirius XM radio, on an NBA show. And going back to Jared Allen, I'm sure you guys remember DeAndre Jordan puffing up his fro and DeAndre Jordan working with him. And then we trade him and DeAndre Jordan gets his minutes. And DeAndre Jordan is another guy we spotted on court this week, working specifically on his defense, which there was plenty laughable moments with DJ last year where we're
Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
What are you doing, bro? Yeah, it's just social media. It's just a video. He's working on his shuffling. He's working on his defense. Good, DeAndre. Fight, man. You're 33 years old. You make $10 million a year. This team is a championship team. If we could get some solid minutes out of you, you got DMPs all through the end of the season. If we can get some solid minutes out of you this year, cool. Or if you could be a solid, veteran coach for these young guys that we have, cool. But I really, like you said,
if he could restructure that contract,
maybe. And dude, let's talk about that for a second with DeAndre Jordan, right? I think we both came into this free agency and this offseason thinking that one of the top priorities was to get DeAndre Jordan off the books, to get DeAndre Jordan out of here. That didn't happen. And that tells me two things. One, he's just, he's a good guy. He's a friend of Kyrie, friend of Blake, friend of KD. They want him here. And then two, nobody else in the NBA wants him. Nobody else wants to take that contract. They don't care about picks. They don't care about helping the Nets. They're like, that's your problem. Y'all deal with that. So we will. What are we, 2 years into his 4-year deal? So be it. We'll see what happens this year with DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, look, if people aren't falling for the Ben Simmons, he can hit threes now videos that he publishes every year, you certainly should not be falling for the DeAndre Jordan can move his feet working with lethal shooter videos. I don't know. I actually can't even get in the mind state where anyone on his team decided that was a good idea to publish. It's too little too late, man. Maybe before you came to the Nets, maybe before the playoffs last year. I don't know, but it's just, you're not going to have this Bobby Portis turnaround with your career, man. Just be a coach, be a teammate, but there's really not a spot for him on the court.
Yeah, he's a locker room presence. He's friends with our stars, and he's got to help these young guys. Maybe he can help Day'Ron Sharpe. Maybe he can even help one Cam Thomas, who was just on Fox 5 Sports Extra, and he said a bunch of things. I don't know if you guys watched his little Zoom conversation. Who was he on with? He was on with Tina. How do I pronounce her name? Tina Servacio. Yeah, he was on with Tina Servacio. He talked about being 19, finding an apartment in New York. It kind of reminded me of Reggie Perry when he came to New York at 19, and even Landry Shamet at 23 coming to New York. The culture shock that these guys have. Cam Thomas last year was in Louisiana at LSU. Now you're thrown into the city and you're a superstar because you balled out in summer league. He also talked about Kobe, and man, I just love that. We just went through the big three. What's KD doing? What's Kyrie doing? What's Harden doing? Now we got big four. The Cam Thomas hype has been going on for the last month since he got drafted. And I think that's great for the Brooklyn Nets because he could be our future. Sorry, I keep getting a weird, maybe that's an allergy cough. Hudson has allergies right now. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. With him, I love the energy, right? The confidence, the charisma that he brings. I knew we were getting a gem when he came out with the Kobe on the inner lapel of his suit jacket when he got drafted. And just to have someone with that energy, with the Kobe roots, coming to New York City, At 19, it's exciting. And if you're a Nets fan, you should be excited. Now, I don't think you should overinflate your expectations of what you're going to get, but man, it's cool to see that Sean Marks can find these good characters, these good players, these good people, these really just all around exciting members of the New York sports community to come to Brooklyn. And like Cam Thomas, if he keeps with that energy and he gets, popular, and he seems to be a kind of guy that's like pretty well loved by his teammates, by people he plays with, people around the league, then like that just sets the Nets up even better for the future. More players will want to come. This is how you build franchises from, the little brother had to move, played in New Jersey, the armpit of America team, all the way up to,
whoa, chill.
I'm just saying what other people say. We're building this Nets franchise into something that is globally recognized for this global game. And Cam Thomas is another step towards that. And it's just great to see. If you're a Nets fan, you can look at him and see that's how we build for the future. Eventually, this big three era will end, but we're not going to be left, with the cupboards bare, because we're going to have Cam Thomas. We're going to have the culture that was built, and every little move we make is just an addition to that. So that's really, really what you want to look for in a young guy like him, and it's exactly what we got.
Yeah, he's 19, and our big three, these guys are 30 plus, and even with their extensions, they're going to start getting up there in years. And I love it, man. It took time to build this Brooklyn Nets franchise into what it is. We're coming up on 10 years. I'm pumped for that as we wait, this 2021, 2022 season, where we'll hit 10 years since 2012 when the Brooklyn Nets came here. And I expect it to end up in a championship. And I expect guys like Cam Thomas to learn from our veterans along the way. All right, let's look at the schedule. This episode is called Schedule is Out, Now We Wait. The Brooklyn Nets announced last week the Brooklyn Nets World Tour. Nets World Tour, 29 cities, single game tickets on sale in October. You got to be vaccinated, though. Make sure you go handle that before October comes, or you will not be seeing any Brooklyn Nets games. The big games, obviously, we open up, at the Pfizer Forum against the Bucks. And I think our first three games are on the road. I'm trying to pull the schedule up now. The other big game that we all knew about is Christmas against the Lakers in LA. And then about a month later in January, we head to Golden State to the Chase Center to face the Warriors. And I don't know. I look at the schedule like this, man. I'm just trying to line up what games I'm trying to go to. I'm just trying to line up what games I can be at. Hudson and I definitely going to be in there this year. We went to one game together last year, and then Hudson went home from Fordham, and then I was at like every playoff game I could be at. Hudson, what games stand out on the Nets schedule from you? What are you thinking our chances are? We'll talk more about next we'll talk about the power rankings. We'll talk about the over-under for wins. And, we can go through the schedule real quick and just look at some big games, some back-to-backs, some home games, and what we're thinking as we head into this next 82-game season.
Yeah, I mean, what really got me excited was that the Nets are second in the league in nationally televised games. So we're going to have that national TV exposure. But, obviously we love our Yes Network. But when I see a national TV game, I see that as a marquee matchup. They're not putting Nets Magic on national TV. They're putting Nets versus other good teams. And that's what's exciting for me, because honestly, this season is going to be a whole lot of waiting. Just like this offseason's a whole lot of waiting, the season's going to be a whole lot of waiting until the Nets get to the playoffs, until they can go back, until they can run it back when the real season starts, which for the Nets is the playoffs, which is the later stages of the playoffs. So for me, to have more exciting marquee matchups is just, it's a great time killer. It's going to be a great test, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to play the Madison Squares a couple of times. That's always fun on Twitter. I'm excited for some Christmas games. Definitely excited to spoil the Bucks banner-raising ceremony, to really actually right off the bat show everybody where the Nets are coming from this year. So I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being entertained while we wait. And we're going to be waiting. It's going to be 82 games waiting until we get to that playoffs. But from what I saw in this schedule, if we can show up in the regular season, there's no reason why we won't show up in the playoffs. There's no reason why we won't be the best team in the NBA. And I know we're going to talk about win predictions, but every team I look at, I don't see any reason why the Nets would lose because we're the best team in the league. You're going to lose some games, but every game I see is just another opportunity to get to 82-0, and I think the Nets can get close to that.
So the first 2 games are on the road, not the first 3 games. The third game starts a stretch of home games, which is going to be dope. And it's late October. I'm not sure what the Yankees are going to be doing in late October. Hopefully we're still in it, but if we're not, I'll probably roll up to all these games. So here's the stretch to open up the Barclays Center. Sunday, October 24th, Melo and the Hornets come through. Monday, October 25th, back-to-back. Spencer Dinwiddie, that sounds weird to say. Spencer Dinwiddie and the Washington Wizards come through. Then we got Bam, Butler, Kyle Lowry, the Miami Heat coming through. The Indiana Pacers, the Detroit Pistons, and the Atlanta Hawks. That is going to be an interesting stretch of games at the Barclays Center against Eastern Conference opponents that have new energy, new guys, and it's going to be a test. But then we go on the road for 6 games, and we play Detroit, Toronto, Chicago, Orlando, New Orleans, Oklahoma City. I think we should smoke those teams. I think we should run through that first road trip. Well, we got the 2-game road trip, but that's going to be the actual real first road trip. We should run through all of those teams. And I won't bore you guys with the whole schedule. I know that came out a week ago, and you've probably been through it, and we'll probably do more schedule talk as we wait and as we get into the season, as things lead up. But here is the ESPN power rankings. Well, let's do this first. The over-under for the Brooklyn Nets, they're the favorites. And I know some people were saying they're not the favorites. Yeah, we're the fucking favorites. Obviously. The Brooklyn Nets over-under for wins is set at 56.5. In the chat, are you taking the over or are you taking the under? The Brooklyn Nets to win 56.5. So if you're taking over, you expect the Brooklyn Nets to win 57 games or more next year. If you're taking the under, then you expect the Brooklyn Nets to win 56 games or less. I am taking the over. I'm looking for 60. I'm taking the over. I'm going over 60. The over under. If you're a gambling man and you're a betting person, you might want to put $100 on that. But obviously, we know it's unpredictable. Injuries happen. There's still COVID out here, but I think the Brooklyn Nets are gonna, they'll be all right with that. Hudson, what are you thinking?
The over. Hammer the over. Oh my goodness. Look, if I'm circling a number, Keith said 60, I'm circling 65. I see no reason why this Nets team cannot win 65 games. I see no reason why we can't have the expectation that the Nets win that many games. I mean, look, like I said, there's no one that can beat the Nets on their day. Not even on their day, on their bad days, the Nets are the best team in the NBA by far. So looking forward, it's going to be a Nets world. It's going to come down to what we can do with the chances that we're given. And I'm looking forward to it because there's no game on their schedule that is unwinnable. And it's going to be exciting because who knows, maybe the Nets can get into the 70s and then maybe we could talk about record-breaking territory.
The Milwaukee Bucks are right behind us. The over-under for them is set at 54. The Lakers are set at, the Bucks are 54.5. Can't forget the half. The Lakers are set at 52.5. The Suns are set at 51.5. And the Utah Jazz are set at 51.5. So those are the top 5 teams as far as Vegas is putting the over-unders for win totals. And I don't know if you guys saw, the ESPN power rankings are out as well. The Brooklyn Nets are number 1. And it's the same order, right? Those are same top 5 teams. Nets, Bucks, Lakers, Suns, Jazz, top 5. Then you've got the Sixers, Nuggets, Heat, Hawks, Clippers in the top 10. And then rounding out the top 15 are the Mavs, Warriors, Celtics, Knicks, Trailblazers. I think it's funny they gave the Knicks that top 15 spot. We won't spend much time talking about them, but I think that was just being nice to Knicks fans in the New York market, because I don't think they're going to be a top 15 team next year. I think everyone got better. And with Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, I guess they got better, but I don't think that fixes the problems that they had last year. And, of course, I'm a big-time Knicks hater. All right, moving on. Paul Millsap. I saw some people talking about Paul Millsap earlier in the chat. We got no updates. it's been rumors. It's been talk for, I think, a week now. And Paul Millsap is interested in joining the Warriors or Nets. And I think there was one other team potentially out there. Like any other Nets fan, I jumped at it like, oh, yeah, Paul Millsap, of course. But he's up there in age, and we don't need any more older players. And, we just I don't know, Hudson, do you think we need Paul Millsap? I don't think we need Paul Millsap. Even if he is interested, I still want LaMarcus Aldridge.
No, the Nets don't need anybody. They don't need anybody. But who knows? And there's going to be a player like this every week through the rest of the season with the way the buyout market works. There's going to be some veteran player that's going to want to come to the Nets. It's going to say they want to come to the Nets. And everyone's going to get excited about them. And honestly, Paul Millsap's not going to move the needle. He's not going to move the needle for this Nets team. Maybe he's a little bit of a plus. Maybe he's a little bit of a minus. But he's not someone that's really going to generate this net change within the Nets. So I think people are a little hyperbolic about the need for the Nets to add any type of player. Of course, it might be nice to have him. He might bring some things. Obviously, we saw what we could get by signing some old players. But right now, I see no reason why the Nets would need to sign him. I see no reason why the Nets would really even want to sign him. And if he does come, that's awesome. If he doesn't, it doesn't really make too much of a difference to me, honestly.
Yeah, me either. And the last thing I got in my notes for this week is the potential Nets throwbacks that leaked. They're the blue and red. They look kind of like Julius Erving era New York Nets. You saw the KD one leak. They say Nets on the front. I think you've heard me say on this podcast, we will probably never get a throwback that says New Jersey on the front while we're playing in Brooklyn, which is fine, but they still will pay homage to the Nets. And I hope we get that as a jersey. I hope they keep the Basquiat look too, because we're rocking with the Basquiat look. I would like to see a white Basquiat jersey next year. And now it's time for chat questions. I see y'all queuing them up. I will put them on the screen and we will roll through for the next 5 minutes on the YouTube chat. Would you give David Duke Jr. the two-way? MJ Zaire writes. I think I saw someone said that KD followed him and, we spoke highly of him and we saw what he did in Summer League. I don't know. I can't call that right now. There's other people, there's other prospects, there's other people that they're talking about with this two-way. What are you thinking about David Duke Jr.?
Yeah, no, I think we should. I think we should give him the two-way. I think that the way he played in the Summer League, if the Summer League, if you're going to buy into the Summer League having an impact on the way NBA players get evaluated by the teams around the league, then David Duke Jr. is absolutely the guy that gets the two-way because he showed on the margins exactly what the Nets needed, right? Cam Thomas is great. He can score just absolute buckets. He's amazing. He shoots at such a high percentage. It's great. In terms of what the Nets need, it's not that. But with David Duke Jr., the Nets are always, 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 with the way that we're constructing teams under Sean Marks, going to have need for someone that can pass, for someone that can play defense, for someone willing to hustle. And if David Duke Jr. is that guy, if we can develop him as that guy, then I see no reason why we wouldn't give him the two-way, because at this point it's a no-risk, high-reward move. And that's exactly the type of move that Sean Marks loves to make. So I'm not going to project whether we will do it or not, but I'd like them to.
Honor writes, are we signing a center? I don't think so. I think we're going to roll with who we've got. We're going to play small. We have Nick Claxton. We have Blake Griffin. We have Day'Ron Sharpe. We have DeAndre Jordan. If we want to play that style where we have a traditional center, we have guys that can do that, but I don't expect that many minutes to be played that way. What are your thoughts on us signing a center, Hudson Flynn?
No. We just talked about how great the catch and shoot 3-point percentage is on this team. That's going to be the focus of this team. It's never going to be a big man battling down low.
Here's another question. Akiva Cohen writes, David Vanterpool, what's his impact? We'll see. We saw him working out with Claxton and Harden. I think he was in that video with them. We'll see what his impact is. I don't know. I can't really speak to that. I don't know too much about him, and I don't know too much about him as a coach. And the main thing that I make sure I do on any podcast or radio, wherever you hear me, is not speak about what I don't know.
Yeah, no, not talking out of pocket, but who does know about coaches? are players in the NBA, and he seems to be widely respected. And so there is no reason why I don't think that he would be a great impact, because everybody seems to like him. Everybody seemed to be very mad that he didn't get any jobs, head coaching jobs, that is. So why not? I hope he's good. I think it will be.
Jared's question kind of goes back to the question about signing a center. Who do we start at the 5? Blake Griffin. And I don't know. I'm fine with that. And like, obviously he's not a traditional center, but our starting 5, I think, will have Blake Griffin. When you see the starting 5 lineup, Blake Griffin will be the last name at the 5.
Yeah, there's no reality in which Blake Griffin does not start at the 5, or who, the 5 slot for the Nets home opener, any opener. He's going to be that guy. I'd like to be Claxton. Maybe I'd like to see Dayron get a chance. It's going to be Blake.
Last one. Mean Jose writes, what's your thoughts on Kessler Edwards? Kessler Edwards, we spoke highly of. We already know he got the 2-way. And I really am excited for him to get into camp with these pro guys on our team so that he can really become a pro, so that he can really learn from these guys. And I think they help him develop. We'll see. I think he's part of the future plans for the Nets down the line, the same way a Cam Thomas, a Dayron Sharp is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's the kind of guy, like I said with David Duke, an area that the Nets need to improve, 3-and-D type player. It's exactly what you're looking for, right? Happy with him. I think he's going to improve a lot. I think he's going to have a spot on the Nets in the future. Maybe not this season, maybe not even next season, but going into year 3, I think he's going to be someone that can really make an impact in that role.
All right, that's all we've got. And that's the show. Appreciate y'all for watching. Shout out to a couple people that got blocked in here, just like doing the most. We need some mods so that I don't have to be moderating the chat. If you want to be a mod, hit us up at Talkin Nets or hit me up at Keith McPherson, and I'll set you up as a mod so that when we go live, you guys can kind of keep this chat going. If you guys are John Boy Media fans, there's a bunch of mods in the John Boy Media chats, and they usually have hundreds of people in like talking baseball and talking Yanks, and the mods basically make sure that the conversation stays on track. No one is, getting made fun of. No one is talking out of pocket, and, it keeps everything copacetic. So that's all we've got. Thanks for rocking with us. We'll be back next week. You already know the closing stuff, man. Subscribe, rate, and review the pod. You can leave us a voicemail. Maybe we'll try and really run up a voicemail episode for next week so you guys can talk on the pod. It's 201-870-0461. Make sure you follow us across platforms at Talkin Nets. Go to shop.johnboymedia.com and get you some merch. And we appreciate the support. Check me out on WFAN tonight at 11 p.m. I'll be on till 2 a.m. You can also call in there. The number is on my Twitter, Nets World. We're making moves. Our world, Nets World, baby. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.